Hola and welcome to ProSpanish. A quick reminder before we start, I know there are a lot of you who are doing my levels 1 to 6 course, so in case you missed the announcement a few weeks ago, each lesson from the course now has a corresponding set on Quizlet. So there's a great free resource. It's a really good way, a really fun way to consolidate your learning and to improve the speed of your responses. But let's get down to our lesson now so that you can appreciate just how quickly you can learn Spanish. For our more advanced subscribers, you may want to skip forward to the time frame that comes up on the screen now. Otherwise, stick with us for the extra practice. Okay, so we're going to start with some quite straightforward vocabulary. It won't be very difficult to remember this, but if you're new to ProSpanish, it's important to know that you don't need to try to remember the language I'm introducing. Just go with the flow of the lesson, and bit by bit you will end up remembering it without too much effort. Okay, so ir a Cuba. Ir a Cuba is to go. That's ir. A Cuba, to Cuba. So ir a Cuba is to go to Cuba. So we're just going to have a few more places that we can go. Ir a la playa. Ir a la playa, to go to the beach. Ir a la playa. We could also go to the swimming pool. Ir a la piscina. Ir a la piscina, to go to the swimming pool. And before carrying on, I'll just mention that don't worry if you don't see the immediate relevance of these phrases to the kind of Spanish that you want to use right now. All this is stepping stones so that we can learn the essential structures and that way, step by step, get to conversational fluency. So, ir a la piscina, to go to the swimming pool. Then we're going to have ir a una discoteca. You can guess that. To go to a disco or to go to a club. Ir a una discoteca. Ir a una fiesta. You might be able to guess that as well. Una fiesta is a party. So ir a una fiesta, to go to a party. Then we'll have ir a trabajar. Ir a trabajar, not quite so much fun. To go to work. Ir a trabajar, to go to work. And then finally one that's a bit different, and it's hacer algo. Hacer algo is to do something. Hacer algo. So we're just going to play around with these. So ir is to go. And if we take to go to the, let's say ir a la playa, to go to the beach. So the beach is la playa. How do you say a party? A party. Una fiesta. Una fiesta is the part of the phrase that's a party. Una fiesta. So let's try swapping the and the around. How would we say, instead of the beach, how would we say a beach? Una playa. Una playa. And how would we say the party, to go to the party? What would that be? La fiesta. So ir a la fiesta, to go to the party. Okay, we'll come back to that in a while. We're just pointing that out for the moment. Okay, now we'll look at some things that could start off our sentences. So we're going to have me apetece. Me apetece. And me apetece is I feel like, or I, in the UK, would often say I fancy doing something. I feel like doing this. I fancy doing this. Think of it as, you can see the apetece, you can see part of appetite. So you've got an appetite for something. So me apetece is I feel like, I would like to, in the sense of I fancy doing something. So what do you think it would mean if I said me apetece ir a la playa? Me apetece ir a la playa. What does that mean? I fancy going to the beach. If you translate it literally, it comes out as I fancy to go to the beach. And that's how the structure works in Spanish. I fancy to do something. Or I feel like to do something. So we could also say, me apetece ir a una discoteca. What do you think that would mean? I fancy going to a club. I fancy to go to a club. So, me apetece. So it's appetizing for me. Me apetece, I feel like it. And we could ask somebody, do you fancy it? Do you feel like doing this? Would you like to do it? ¿Te apetece? ¿Te apetece? So is it appetizing to you? ¿Te apetece? So if I ask somebody, ¿te apetece ir a la piscina? ¿Te apetece ir a la piscina? I'm asking, do you fancy going to the pool? Or it might be, are you up for this? Are you up for going to the pool? ¿Te apetece ir a la piscina? So we've got me apetece, I fancy, I'm up for, I feel like doing it. Do you fancy it? Are you up for it? ¿Te apetece? And then we'll have no puedo. No puedo is very, very useful. No puedo is I can't. No puedo is I can't. What do you think I can would be? Puedo. Puedo, I can. But no puedo, I can't. And then finally, tengo que. Tengo que. Tengo is I have. And when we say tengo que, it becomes I have to, as in I must do something. So if I said, tengo que ir a trabajar. Tengo que ir a trabajar. What do you think that means? I have to go to work. Literally, it sounds like I have to go to work, but obviously we wouldn't say it like that in English. We'd say I have to go to work. Tengo que ir a trabajar. Okay, and we'll put in our final column, and we're just going to have hoy, which is today. Hoy, today. Esta tarde is this afternoon. La tarde is the afternoon. Esta tarde, this afternoon. And we'll have con ella. Con ella is with her. So we have quite a lot of language there on the screen, but it's important to remember, as I said before, that you don't need to try to make an effort to learn this. Just go with the flow of the lesson. And for this next phase, just listen. Try to follow the words across the screen and then work out what it means. That's all you need to do. You'll hear it twice. Me apetece ir a la playa hoy. Me apetece ir a la playa hoy. What does that mean? I fancy going to the beach today. I feel like going to the beach today. Me apetece ir a la piscina esta tarde. Me apetece ir a la piscina esta tarde. I fancy, I feel like, going to the pool this afternoon. How about this one? ¿Te apetece ir a una fiesta hoy? ¿Te apetece ir a una fiesta hoy? Are you up for going to a party today? Do you fancy going to a party today? How about this? ¿Te apetece hacer algo esta tarde? ¿Te apetece hacer algo esta tarde? Do you fancy doing something today? Are you up for doing something today? Or we could have Tengo que ir a trabajar hoy. Tengo que ir a trabajar hoy. I have to go to work today. How about no puedo ir a una discoteca hoy. No puedo ir a una discoteca hoy. I can't go to a disco or a club today. We'll just take a quick pause there while I mention our very popular Levels 1 to 6 course. This takes the complete beginner or a near beginner right up to a conversational level of Spanish in a series of very easy to follow steps. All the lessons on this YouTube channel are supplementary, whereas the core Levels 1 to 6 is very much a step-by-step program delivered by the same teacher as all the other videos on the ProSpanish YouTube channel. And while the style is very similar to what you'll be used to from these videos on the channel, the key difference is that every lesson carefully builds on the previous lessons so that you can really feel that progress of going from very little or no Spanish up to a level where you can confidently hold a conversation in Spanish. So again, that's available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. So let's have another look at I can't. No puedo. No puedo. We just put the no to change it to a negative. So how do you think you would say I don't fancy? So me apetece is I fancy or I feel like. How would you say I don't fancy, I don't feel like? No me apetece. No me apetece. I don't fancy that. So what does this mean? No me apetece ir a la playa esta tarde. No me apetece ir a la playa esta tarde. I don't feel like going to the beach this afternoon. I don't feel like going to the beach this afternoon. But actually it's more likely to be no me apetece ir a trabajar hoy. What would that be? No me apetece ir a trabajar hoy. I don't feel like, I don't fancy going to work today. Okay, now we're going to do it the other way around. This is the second phase. So you can still use this grid for support, but if you can, try to look away now and again as well to put yourself under a little bit of pressure, to test yourself a little bit. But at this stage, it's also okay to completely rely on it. Okay, so how would you say this? I fancy going to the beach this afternoon. And it's really important, if you're new to ProSpanish, to pause the video to give yourself some thinking time to work out the answer before hearing it on the recording. So again, how would we say, I fancy going to the beach this afternoon? Me apetece ir a la playa esta tarde. Me apetece ir a la playa esta tarde. How would you say, do you fancy going to Cuba? Are you up for going to Cuba? So this is just using the first two columns. What would that be? ¿Te apetece ir a Cuba? ¿Te apetece ir a Cuba? How about I don't fancy, I don't feel like? What would that be? No me apetece. No me apetece. How would you say, I don't feel like going to a club with her? I don't fancy going to a club with her. What would that be? No me apetece ir a una discoteca con ella. No me apetece ir a una discoteca con ella. How would you say, I can't go to the pool today. No puedo ir a la piscina hoy. No puedo ir a la piscina hoy. How would you say, I have to go to work this afternoon? Tengo que ir a trabajar esta tarde. Tengo que ir a trabajar esta tarde. I have to go to work this afternoon. How would you ask, are you up for doing something today? Do you fancy doing something today? What would that be? ¿Te apetece hacer algo hoy? ¿Te apetece hacer algo hoy? Okay, now we're going to put some of these things together to make longer sentences. Again, if you can, try to look away from the screen, but it's okay to rely on it as well. So we'll just start off. Somebody would ask the question, straightforward question. Do you fancy going to a party? Are you up for a party? What would that be? ¿Te apetece ir a una fiesta? ¿Te apetece ir a una fiesta? And then the answer is, I can't. I have to go to work. What would that be? No puedo. Tengo que ir a trabajar. No puedo. Tengo que ir a trabajar. And they might want to add tonight. I have to work tonight. We've got this afternoon is esta tarde, and this night is esta noche. So in Spanish, tonight is this night, esta noche. So how would we say, I can't, I have to go to work tonight? No puedo. Tengo que ir a trabajar esta noche. No puedo. Tengo que ir a trabajar esta noche. How about, I can't go to a club tonight. I have to do something. So a bit of a long one, but take it bit by bit. I can't go to a club tonight. I have to do something. No puedo ir a una discoteca esta noche. Tengo que hacer algo. No puedo ir a una discoteca esta noche. Tengo que hacer algo. How about, I can't go to Cuba with her. I can't go to Cuba with her. No puedo ir a Cuba con ella. No puedo ir a Cuba con ella. So you've made a lot of progress in a short space of time, but also you can see with this method how quickly you can grow your ability to communicate in Spanish. So look how we can multiply a language just by adding 2 extra elements to what we already have. So let's put in voy a. Voy a is I'm going to. Voy a. And estudiar is to study. Let's say estudiar español, to study Spanish. So just those 2 extra things. Well now, how would you say I'm going to study this afternoon? What would that be? I'm going to study this afternoon. Voy a estudiar esta tarde. Voy a estudiar esta tarde. How would you say, I don't feel like studying Spanish today? No me apetece estudiar español hoy. No me apetece estudiar español hoy. How about I'm going to do something this afternoon? Voy a hacer algo esta tarde. Voy a hacer algo esta tarde. And we can make an even longer sentence. I have to study Spanish. I'm going to go to Cuba. What would that be? I have to study Spanish. I'm going to go to Cuba. Tengo que estudiar español. Voy a ir a Cuba. Tengo que estudiar español. Voy a ir a Cuba. And you can see how quickly we'd get to a point where we're able to have conversations in Spanish. And so a reminder again, the Levels 1 to 6 course is available exclusively from prospanish.co.uk. And so on to the part of the lesson that is dedicated to our more advanced subscribers. We've had a few comments that some learners are struggling to understand the lesson when it's solely conducted in Spanish. So we'll try a bit of a hybrid today. Vamos a empezar con algo un poco básico y luego después ampliarlo. Entonces, más grande, más interesante, más peligroso. Entonces, more big or bigger, more interesting, more dangerous. Entonces, en un principio, esto se trata de comparaciones. So our base is some comparisons. Entonces, vamos a luego tener el que es than. Y luego simplemente Pablo y un león. So Pablo and a lion. Y al principio vamos a empezar con es. Y es puede ser he is, she is o it is. ¿Vale? Entonces, ¿cómo se dice he's more interesting than Pablo? Es más interesante que Pablo. Es más interesante que Pablo. ¿Vale? Bastante básico. ¿Cómo sería? It's more dangerous than a lion. Es más peligroso que un león. Es más peligroso que un león. She's bigger than Pablo. Es más grande que Pablo. Es más grande que Pablo. ¿Vale? Entonces ahí tenemos la base. Vamos a empezar de nuevo y añadir otras cosas. Entonces, más grande, más interesante, más peligroso y más difícil, more difficult or harder, más fácil, more easy or easier. También vamos a tener es for it's, entonces es más difícil, it's harder, it's more difficult, es más interesante, it's more interesting, igual que antes, the same as before. Y en la parte final vamos a tener parece. Parece, he seems, she seems o it seems. Entonces, parece difícil. It seems difficult. Después, crees, you think, you believe. But here it's you think. And creía. Entonces, creía, I thought. It could be he or she thought as well. In the imperfect, the I and the third person, the first and the third person is the same. For the moment, we'll keep the creía as I thought to keep it straightforward. So we have he, she, or it seems, parece, you think, and I thought. Vale, si ahora queremos hacer una comparación como antes, por ejemplo, si queremos decir it's more interesting than it seems. It's more interesting than it seems. We might think we can just put the que as before, because that previously translated to than. But previously we were comparing with a noun, so it was more than Pablo, than a lion. And now the comparison is using a verb in the second part of the phrase, in the second clause. It's a verb. And when this is the case, we have to have de lo que. Okay, it's just the way the structure works. So instead of que, it's de lo que when there's a verb in the second part of the comparison. So we're not saying that it's more interesting than him, but more interesting than it seems. A verb. More interesting than I thought. And there is a sense to it because lo que is used as what in the middle of a sentence. Lo que is what. And we could also say, well, it sounds slightly strange in English, but we could say it's more interesting than what I thought. It's more interesting than what it seems. So yeah, it sounds slightly strange, but not completely bizarre. Vale, entonces, ahí lo tenemos. Cuando usamos un verbo en la segunda parte, la segunda oración de la frase, entonces, en vez de que, tenemos que utilizar de lo que. Vale, entonces, ¿cómo podemos decir it's more difficult than it seems? We might also say it's more difficult than it looks, and it would be the same phrase in Spanish. So what would that be? Es más difícil de lo que parece. Es más difícil de lo que parece. How would we say, she's more interesting than I thought? Es más interesante de lo que creía. Es más interesante de lo que creía. ¿Y cómo sería? It's more dangerous than you think. Es más peligroso de lo que crees. Es más peligroso de lo que crees. ¿Cómo sería? It's bigger than it looks, or it's bigger than it seems. Es más grande de lo que parece. Es más grande de lo que parece. ¿Cómo sería? It's easier than I thought. Es más fácil de lo que creía. Es más fácil de lo que creía. And that concludes today's Pro-Spanish lesson. As mentioned earlier, if you're looking to become a confident and a competent speaker of Spanish, head over to prospanish.co.uk to download the full level